A young British tourist has fallen to her death at an infamous eastern suburbs photo hotspot.
Death has a dark sense of humor, especially when it comes with foolish choices. These unbelievable screw-ups show how people can find the most ridiculous ways to check out of life. What pushes ordinary people to take such reckless risks? And how thin is the line between a wild story and a tragic warning? Join us as we uncover 18 embarrassing dumb ways people died. Number 18. The Seatbelt Rebellion. Seatbelts might seem simple, but they're lifesavers. Studies show that wearing one can cut your risk of dying in a serious crash by about 50%, but not everyone sees it that way. In 2008, a man in New Zealand became known for hating seatbelts so much that he was fined 32 times for refusing to wear one. No matter how many tickets he got, he just wouldn't buckle up. In fact, he went so far as to make a fake seatbelt. He strapped a belt-like object across his chest just to fool the police into thinking he was following the law. It worked for a while, helping him dodge more fines. But here's where things took a tragic and ironic turn. One day, while driving, the man got into a car crash. Without a real seatbelt to hold him back, his body slammed into the steering wheel when his car hit another vehicle. According to the coroner, this accident might not have been deadly if he had been properly strapped in. A seatbelt could have kept him safely in his seat and likely saved his life. Ignoring simple safety rules cost him huge consequences. Seatbelts aren't just straps, they're powerful tools that protect people every day. Sometimes the easiest choice, like buckling up, is the smartest one. Number 17. The explosive gum incident. Chewing gum is usually something people do to freshen their breath or pass the time. But for one young man in Ukraine, it ended in disaster. This 25-year-old chemistry student at Kiev Polytechnic Institute had an odd habit. He liked to dip his gum into citric acid powder. Citric acid is the sour stuff found in lemons and other fruits, but when used in a strong powdery form, it can also wear down your teeth. Still, losing a tooth was the least of his worries. One night, while working in his room, the student was experimenting with chemicals, as chemistry students sometimes do. But this time, something went terribly wrong. Forensic experts later discovered that one of the powders he had in his workspace was about 4 times more explosive than TNT, the stuff used in blasting rocks apart. It seems that by mistake, he grabbed this highly dangerous chemical instead of his usual citric acid. Thinking it was safe, he dipped his gum into the explosive powder and popped it into his mouth. The moment he bit down, the pressure caused the powder to explode, blowing off his jaw and ending his life instantly. Authorities later explained that explosives like this don't always need fire to go off. Sometimes, just a bit of pressure is enough. Number 16. The premature bungee jump. Bungee jumping is one of those heart-pounding thrills where people leap from high platforms while safely tied to a big stretchy cord. But in Colombia, in 2021, one couple's first bungee jump ended in a terrible mistake. A 25-year-old woman, Yesenia Morales Gomez, and her boyfriend stood on a platform about 150 feet high, ready for their jump. They were getting set up by instructors, who were busy clipping the safety harnesses and cords to the jumpers. The boyfriend was fully secured and ready to go. The instructor gave him a clear signal to jump, but here's where things went wrong. The girlfriend standing nearby thought the signal was for her too. Without realizing that she wasn't attached to the safety gear, she jumped off the platform. Sadly, gravity works fast. Without the bungee cord holding her, she fell all the way down. There was no safety net, and this wasn't a small trip where you get back up and dust yourself off. It was a fatal fall. This tragic event shows why safety steps in extreme sports like bungee jumping are serious business. Normally, professional bungee jump operators check and double-check every harness and cord before giving a thumbs up. Clear communication between instructors and jumpers is a must. Bungee jumping can be safe and thrilling when done correctly, but one small misunderstanding or rushing ahead can turn a fun adventure into a heartbreaking story. It is important to always wait for the proper signal and make sure you are securely attached before taking the leap. Number 15. Beauty, vanity, and the devil's throat. In 2024, off the coast of Brazil, a group of 6 social media influencers set out on what they thought would be a fun day on the water. They were partying on a boat in a dangerous area called the Devil's Throat, known for its rough waves and risky waters. The problem? The boat was only meant to hold 5 people, but they squeezed on 6. Things didn't stop there. 2 of the women decided not to wear life jackets. Why? They told police that the bright orange vests would ruin their tans and their selfies. They cared more about looking good in photos than staying safe on the water. Mother Nature had other plans. A large wave crashed into the overloaded boat, tipping it over and quickly sinking it. The boat was too heavy, and without life jackets, things turned serious fast. And the saddest part was that those 2 women couldn't swim. Without life jackets to keep them afloat, they drowned before help could arrive. This terrible event shows how dangerous vanity can be. A life jacket might not look stylish in a selfie, but it saves lives. In boating, it's important to follow every safety rule. Don't overload boats, always wear your life jacket, and never take the water lightly. Social media might make people feel like they need perfect photos all the time, but safety should always come first. Sadly, these influencers learned that lesson too late, and their story is a warning for everyone about how serious the ocean can be. Number 14. The helmet protest that proved the point. In New York State, motorcycles make up just 3.5% of registered vehicles. Yet, they account for 15% of all traffic deaths. Riding a motorcycle is 22 times riskier than driving a car. That's why, back in 1967, New York became the first state in the United States to make wearing helmets on motorcycles a law. It was all about saving lives. But not everyone was happy about it, especially people who value personal freedom above all else. One group, called American Bikers Aimed Toward Education, often protests helmet laws. Every 4th of July, the Onondaga chapter in New York would organize a ride to push back against this rule. In 2011, about 500 riders joined the event. One of them was Philip Contos, a 55-year-old former Army soldier known for rebelling against government rules. His brother even said Philip protested just about everything. During the ride, as Philip cruised on his 1983 Harley-Davidson, something unexpected happened. His bootlace got tangled. When he looked down to check it, he didn't notice the traffic slowing ahead. By the time he hit the brakes, it was too late. His bike skidded. He fell and hit his head on the pavement. Sadly, he passed away soon after. Doctors later said if Philip had been wearing a helmet, he likely would have survived. His brother believed Philip wouldn't have regretted his decision. Number 13. The chimney burglar.
A chimney became a death trap in Fresno, California for one suspected burglar.
In the small town of Huron, California, with about 7,000 people, life is usually pretty quiet. But on a chilly night in late November 2015, something unusual happened that would put the town in the spotlight. 19-year-old Cody Caldwell, known around town as the guy who knocked on doors trying to sell random items like stereos, had a strange plan. Instead of breaking a window to sneak into a house, Cody decided to climb onto the roof and go down the chimney just like Santa Claus. But this wasn't Christmas, and Cody wasn't bringing gifts. Cody got stuck halfway down the chimney. He stayed silent, hoping to stay hidden. But this was November, and it was cold. The next morning, the homeowner, who had been away, returned and, not knowing anyone was inside, lit a fire to warm up the house. Soon, they heard screaming from the chimney. The homeowner quickly put out the fire and called for help.
That's what happened yesterday in Fresno when authorities were called to extract a burglar from a chimney.
Firefighters rushed over, using drills and chisels to break open the chimney. Sadly, by the time they pulled Cody out, he had passed away from smoke inhalation and burns. The next day, an autopsy confirmed the cause of death. In a surprising twist, it was later discovered that the homeowner himself was wanted by police for unrelated offenses. Cody's tragic story became a well-known example of how risky and sometimes bizarre decisions can lead to disaster. It also earned him a spot on the list of strange tales people still talk about today. Number 12. The fatal pursuit of the perfect selfie. Selfies are fun, right? But sometimes, people take them in very dangerous places, and it can turn deadly. That's exactly what happened to 21-year-old Madeline Davis, a tourist from the UK, while she was visiting Sydney, Australia. On the night of January 10th, 2020, Madeline and her friends were partying hard. They drank a lot and, according to news reports, also took drugs. After the party, early the next morning, the group went to Diamond Bay Reserve, a place famous for its high cliffs and ocean views. Many people visit this spot to snap selfies with the stunning background of the Sydney skyline. But, as beautiful as it is, the cliffs there are dangerous. In fact, someone else had already died there in the past year while trying to take a selfie. Still feeling the effects of the party, Madeline climbed over a safety fence to get closer to the cliff's edge for a perfect photo. But tragedy struck. She slipped and fell 100 feet down the rocky cliff. Emergency crews arrived quickly, followed by water rescue divers and fishing boats. Sadly, later that day, they found her body stuck in a rock shelf about 55 feet above the water. Experts say around 43 people die each year from taking selfies in risky spots, with most cases happening in India, Russia, the United States, and Pakistan. Sadly, most victims are young people, and more men than women take these dangerous chances. Number 11. The festive fireworks sitting dare. During Diwali, India's famous festival of lights, people celebrate with colorful decorations, sweets, and fireworks. It's a joyful time, but fireworks, after all, are small explosives, and when you mix them with bad decisions, things can turn dangerous fast. One Diwali night, a 32-year-old man and his 6 friends were celebrating with fireworks and drinks. But as the night went on, their choices became riskier. That's when someone dared the man to do something incredibly foolish: sit on a box of lit fireworks. The reward? His friends promised to buy him an autorickshaw, which is a small 3-wheeled taxi. So, for the chance to win a motorized ride, the man actually sat on top of the fireworks as they were sparking and ready to blow. Sadly, this wasn't a harmless prank. The fireworks exploded underneath him, causing severe burns and injuries. Fireworks are designed to launch into the sky, not to go off under someone's body. In many countries, fireworks are responsible for thousands of injuries each year, especially during holidays. Burns, lost fingers, and even worse can happen when fireworks aren't handled safely. The story is a sad mix of peer pressure, alcohol, and explosives. It is never a smart move. Diwali is about celebrating life and light, not risking your safety for a dare. Sometimes the cost of impressing friends or winning a silly prize can be far greater than anyone expects. Sadly, in this case, it ended with a dangerous and painful lesson. Number 10. The Flying Cow. In 2023, a strange and sad story happened in Alwar, Rajasthan, India. A retired railway worker was out by the train tracks when nature called. For some reason, he chose the railway tracks as the spot to take a quick bathroom break. But what happened next is something no one could have guessed. While he was standing there, far up the tracks, a cow had wandered onto the railway line. Before anyone could help, a speeding train hit the cow. The force of the impact sent the poor animal flying through the air like a wild scene from a movie. The cow landed directly on the man who was standing by the tracks, causing a tragic accident. In India, cows often roam freely, especially in rural areas, and train tracks are not fenced off in many places. Sadly, accidents like animals being struck by trains are not uncommon. But for a cow to be launched into the air and hit someone so far down the track, that's extremely rare and unfortunate. This story might sound silly at first, but it teaches a serious lesson about safety around train tracks. Railways are dangerous, not just because of the trains, but because unexpected things can happen. So, next time you're near a railway, remember, stay alert, stay clear, and never treat tracks like a shortcut or a bathroom stop. Sometimes, accidents come from the most unexpected places, even from a flying cow. Number 9. Real-life subway surfers. In 2024, a group of young men in Austria took the popular mobile game Subway Surfers and tried to play it in real life. If you've ever played the game, you know it's about a kid running and jumping on top of moving trains while dodging obstacles. Fun on a screen, but dangerous in reality. These thrill-seekers climbed onto the roof of a moving train that was going about 30 miles per hour. That's fast enough to cause serious harm. Why did they do it? To make a TikTok video. With phones recording, they lay flat on the roof as the train sped into a tunnel, leaving just a few inches between them and the tunnel ceiling. But when the train left the tunnel, two of them stood up too soon. They didn't notice a low railway bridge coming straight toward them. One of the young men was sadly knocked off the train and didn't survive. The other was lucky and lived through it. The two who stayed behind the camera were safe and later posted the video online. In some places, people have tried this risky act called train surfing to get likes and attention online. But train surfing is illegal and extremely dangerous. People have lost their lives or been badly hurt while doing it. So, even though games like Subway Surfers might look exciting, it's important to remember they are games for a reason. In real life, trains are no place to play. Safety always comes first. Number 8. The elephant photography catastrophe. In 2024, a 43-year-old man from Spain made a risky choice while visiting Pilanesberg National Park in South Africa. He and his fiancée were on a safari tour with a group when they spotted a herd of wild elephants. While most people would stay safely inside the car, this man had a different idea. He wanted a close-up photo of the elephants. Everyone in the car told him not to do it. Wild elephants can be unpredictable and protective, especially if they feel threatened. But the man ignored their warnings, got out of the car, and walked right up to the massive animals with his camera. What happened next was exactly what experts warn about. The elephants felt unsafe and acted fast. One or more of them charged at him, knocking him to the ground.
So here's the deal. The safari guide and the photographer that we spoke to stressed that the best thing to do in these situations is to trust.
Elephants can weigh up to 6 tons, and when they stomp, they can crush almost anything beneath them. Sadly, the man did not survive. Elephants may look calm and gentle from a distance, but they are still wild animals with strong instincts to protect their herd, especially if humans get too close. Wildlife parks and rangers always advise visitors to keep a safe distance and stay inside vehicles. The man's story is proof of why these rules exist. Getting the perfect photo is never worth risking your life. Respecting nature means knowing when to step back, and sometimes that choice can save you. Number 7. The pesticide cooking catastrophe. In 2020, in the Indian state of Tamil Nadu, a young woman, just 22 years old and recently married, set out to cook a special meal called Mysore Bonda, a popular South Asian snack. The recipe called for common ingredients like flour, onions, ginger, and curry leaves. But what she didn't know was that a simple mistake in the kitchen would lead to a heartbreaking disaster. Her father-in-law had left a bag of flour on the counter, right next to a bag of powdered pesticide meant for the family's farm. Sadly, the bags got mixed up. Even though pesticides and flour are very different things, the woman accidentally grabbed the pesticide, thinking it was flour. Without realizing the danger, she prepared the meal and served it to her husband and in-laws. Shortly after eating, everyone became seriously sick. They were rushed to the hospital, where doctors discovered the poisoning. While the in-laws survived after emergency treatment, the young woman and her husband tragically did not make it. One has to always be careful with how we store and handle things, especially in places like kitchens where food is prepared. Pesticides are toxic chemicals used to kill pests on farms. They are never safe to eat. Number 6. The hot dog eating competition. Fatality. In 2014, a man in South Dakota joined a local hot dog eating contest.
Coney Island wasn't the only place that saw a hot dog eating competition.
Hoping to win by eating as many hot dogs as he could. Hot dog eating contests are popular events where people race to see who can gobble the most hot dogs in a short time. They might seem fun, but they can be risky if someone pushes too far. During the competition, this contestant was eating hot dogs quickly, trying to keep up with the others. But suddenly, his body couldn't handle it. He began to choke after swallowing too many hot dogs too fast. The event staff rushed to help and tried CPR, but sadly they couldn't save him. The sponsor of the contest later said they were at a loss for words, sharing their sadness over the tragedy. While hot dogs are usually connected to fun cookouts and silly eating contests, this story shows how dangerous it can be when someone rushes or doesn't listen to their body during eating competitions. Eating contests might look exciting on TV, but they can put a lot of strain on the body. Choking is a real danger when food is eaten too fast without proper chewing or breaks. The man didn't win the contest, but people remembered him for taking part. Number 5. The tire rolling tragedy. Some people love doing wild and risky things for fun, but sometimes those stunts can turn deadly. That's exactly what happened in this unusual and tragic story. A man thought it would be exciting to roll down a steep mountain while sitting inside a giant tractor tire. He climbed into a huge tire and let it roll down a slope that dropped at a very sharp 70-degree angle. At first, it might have seemed like a thrilling ride, like a roller coaster in the mountains. But unlike a roller coaster, this tire didn't have brakes or safety belts. The tire gained speed as it tumbled down the rocky slope, spinning faster and faster. At the bottom of the hill was a river, and the out-of-control tire rolled straight into it. Trapped inside, the man couldn't escape. Sadly, he drowned in the river before anyone could rescue him. Rolling down hills inside tires might sound like a game kids play on small grassy slopes, but doing it on a mountain is extremely dangerous. Without a way to stop or steer, it's impossible to control where you end up or how fast you go. It's important to think about the risks. Fun is great, but safety should always come first, especially when tires and steep mountains are involved. Number 4. The Live Fish Swallowing Challenge. Fish is a healthy food packed with protein, vitamins, and omega-3 fatty acids. Most people enjoy fish cooked on a plate, but one young man in 90 and 98 took things to a shocking level. A 23-year-old was hanging out with friends when someone dared him to swallow a live fish. Dares can be hard to resist, especially when you want to show off. The man had apparently done this risky trick before, so he grabbed a 5-inch fish and gulped it down whole. But this time, things went terribly wrong. As he swallowed the live fish, it got stuck in his throat. The fish, still alive and wriggling, blocked his airway, making it impossible for him to breathe. His friends tried to help, and paramedics rushed to the scene, but it was too late. When help arrived, the man had already passed away, and shockingly, the fish was still alive, its tail sticking out of his mouth. These dares are just not worth it. While swallowing live creatures might sound like a silly party stunt to some, it can be dangerous and even deadly. Fish have sharp fins and scales, and they can move quickly, making them very risky to swallow whole. It's always better to choose dares that don't put your health or your life on the line. After all, fish are much tastier and safer when they're served on a plate, not flapping in your throat. Number 3. The High Voltage Fishing Expedition. Fishing is usually seen as a calm and peaceful hobby. You stand by the water, cast your line, and wait for a fish to bite. But one man's fishing trip in Bulgaria turned into something much more dangerous and deadly. A 46-year-old man from the city of Bulkiza went fishing by a local dam. He brought along a huge carbon fishing rod that was about 20 feet long. Carbon rods are super light, but can also conduct electricity. What the man didn't notice, though, was a high-voltage power line hanging right above him. As he swung his long rod forward to cast his line, it touched the power line above. That's when things went horribly wrong. The electricity from the power line zipped down the rod and shocked the man with a powerful jolt. The electric current was so strong that it killed him on the spot. Experts say high-voltage lines like these can carry thousands of volts, enough to be deadly in an instant. This fishing trip turned into a shocking tragedy because the man didn't check his surroundings. When you're outdoors, especially with long gear like fishing rods, it's super important to look around and spot any dangers, like power lines or sharp rocks. Fishing is still a fun and safe activity for most people, but it's a good reminder to always stay aware and never mix electricity with outdoor fun. Unfortunately, this man's story became a grim warning for others who enjoy casting a line near water. Number 2. Virtual reality's fatal distraction. In New South Wales, Australia, a woman was having fun with her brand new virtual reality headset. You know those headsets where you wear big goggles and wave your arms around while playing cool games? It's like stepping into another world. But this story shows why staying aware of your real surroundings is super important. As the woman played her VR game, she couldn't see anything around her. Her focus was completely on the game as she moved and spun around. But here's the problem. Her room wasn't tidy. There were random things on the floor, including a worn-out electric heater. While moving backward during the game, she tripped over the clutter and fell onto the old heater. The heater, which wasn't in great shape, had exposed wires. When she landed on it, it gave her a deadly electric shock. Not only that, but the heater sparked and caused a fire that spread through the house. Virtual reality is an exciting way to game, but safety experts always say you should clear your play area before using it. That means removing things you could trip over or bump into. Sadly, this woman's story is a tragic example of what can happen if you don't check your surroundings first. VR is meant to be fun, but in this case, her fun turned into a fatal accident because real-world dangers were ignored. So, if you ever use virtual reality, remember to clear the space, stay safe, and always respect the real world, even when you're inside a game. Number 1. The hair-eating hairdresser. Most of us know how annoying it is to accidentally get a hair in our mouth. It's gross, right? But for one young woman, eating hair wasn't an accident. It was a habit she couldn't kick. From a young age, she loved chewing on her own hair. It became such a problem that when she was around 10, her parents had to cut her hair short to stop her from doing it. But old habits can be hard to break. By 1999, the woman, who was now training to be a hairdresser, had grown her hair long again, and she went right back to eating it. Over time, she swallowed so much hair that it formed a huge hairball inside her stomach. Doctors call this a trichobozoar. In her case, the hairball was massive, about the size and shape of a football. This giant clump of hair caused her stomach to hurt badly. Hair isn't something your body can digest, so it just sat there, growing bigger and causing problems. Eventually, she had to go to the hospital for surgery to remove it. The doctors successfully took out the hairball, but sadly, her body didn't heal well afterward. Complications during recovery led to her untimely death. Eating hair, also called trichophagia, is a real disorder that can become dangerous if left untreated. In rare cases like this one, it can even be fatal. While this story is strange, it also teaches us something important. Small habits, if left unchecked, can turn into serious health risks. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video.